The Final Frontier. These are your adventures as you explore, seeking out new life and civilizations, expanding your borders and exploiting the resources you find, befriending allies, or exterminating the foes that get in your way.
Contact detected entering sector. Configuration unknown. Assessing. Initiating countermeasures.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. My name is Tony. Thank you for joining us here on Saturday, 11 o'clock, bright and early, on the West Coast, that is, of North America, Pacific time. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for taking the time to join us here live. You're probably wondering what in the world is Star Trek New Worlds, assuming it's your first time here. It is a turn-based strategy game that we play online here with you, inspired by, I have to change that terminology, inspired by the rules of Federation and Empire. And the map that you will see shortly is populated by the magic of Vassal. We play this online here with you today on Facebook Live, Twitch, and YouTube. Geez, you think I could spit that out a little bit smoother? I do it so many times. Anyways, thank you so much for being with us here. If you're a Star Trek fan, you like things all turn-based strategy and such, then please feel free to be like Zelenoff there to hit the subscribe button and join us on our weekly journey here as we figure out what's going on, as we explore, expand, exterminate our opponents in the galaxy, a 4X game that we play here with you. In today's episode, what are we talking about? Well, as per the title, we're talking about galactic encounters and diplomacy. So, what kinds of things will you be doing? What kind of courses of action can you take as a faction? What role do diplomats have? What is it about trade? And a little nugget about trade later in the episode. But before we get sort of really deep into it, let's say hello to all the folks that are in the chat right now. There we go. So let's pop out that chat so I can actually see what's going on. So here we have, going from the start, we got Jim in the house. The Khan appears as if by magic. Matt Westmerlin is here. Foul magic. Eugene, our ever persistent and talented press agent, welcome back. What will we learn this week? What game has progressed the furthest? Oh my goodness. For those of you who just saw that for the very first time, that is a photon fired of coffee. That's right, a mystery antagonist, cheers, has fired us a coffee, a way to stimulate, motivate, and keep us perky on this end of the microphone. I can't drink it fast enough. Thank you very much. You will notice down below the green bar is progressing across the bottom of the screen. Our goal today, because this community has been growing so fast and has been so good at just making us feel welcome and thankful for all your support. Our goal today is not one, not two, not three, but 4 Quattro coffees is the objective. And as you can see, within the first few minutes, we're already 50% there. So if you want to fire us a coffee just to keep us motivated, well percolated, and the voice box lubricated, then head over to that coffee.com/New Worlds link, or you can take your phone and hit that QR code in between me and the chat. Either way, you can get there. And at the end of this live stream, if you want to join us on our Discord channel, at that link, you can join us on the Coffee and Discord tier, and you can jump into our Discord channel and join us for the witty banter that goes back and forth. But let me get back to our folks that are joining us here live today, already in the double digits. Thank you so much. You Can't Be Petty's in the house. We've got Bill Smith. Oh, and let me finish what Eugene was saying. Where were you, Eugene? I lost you. Okay, here we are. So what empires are at the tops of their respective games? Will those who were first now be last when the whistle blows? Only time will tell. We'll see. All right, so yeah, Bill, shields raised, all weapons charged, erratic movements and high energy turn allocated. Yes, I think it's time for red alert. Obviously an SFB player there, can we see? So Jim, Bill, Matt are all in the house. Eugene, if you make a cow laugh really hard, will milk come out of her nose? Time and place. Daniel is in the house. You Can't Be Petty is here. Mayhem 343, Emergency Plan Alpha. And George Forknell, not to be shy, is in the house. Dell, defense pattern brown, trousers alpha, or brown trousers alpha? Right, got it. That's why you wear brown, so they can't tell. All right, well, with that chat in place, let's restore the chat. Pop out chat. Restore the chat. There we are. Boom. Back in full effect in stereo sound. All right. So in today's episode, we're talking about two different campaigns. We have got three that are currently going on. We're going to talk about two of those campaigns. The first that we'll be discussing is New Horizons. Why are we talking about New Horizons first? Well, honestly, the maps are smaller and I can get through it faster for you. And then we can get to Splintered Will. If you watched us last week, you know that Splintered Will is, well, getting a little out of hand. It's going, things are expanding quickly and players are growing at a ferocious pace, and the workload for the GM is getting high and mighty. So the turns are slowing down, the maps are big, and there's lots to talk about. So why don't we talk about New Horizons first, and then in the tail end, we'll talk about Splintered Will. As I try and clear my throat. You know, I think perhaps I need to wet my whistle. For those of you who have not already seen these wonderful glasses, we have an image for each campaign as well as New Worlds, the channel in general. And you know, it's funny. I find little ASMR here for you. Ooh, bubbles. I find that things just taste sweeter, more refreshing, and are just a little bit sweeter on the palate when they come from this gorgeous glass, which of you, of course, can head over to stnewworlds.com. Am I pushing it too hard? Anyways, you want a glass, you can head over there. The link's on the channel description or in the channel if you want to take a look. Oh, yeah. That tastes good. I like that. And the bubbles do a great job at clearing the throat. So thank you very much. All right. Let's slide into a little bit of map talk, and you tell me if you like our new transitions. Ooh, special effects and stereo sound. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is turn 26 is where we're catching up with the New Horizons campaign. Turn 26, this is the Tholian player, and we're going to start off with checking out their EP. EP is the total amount of money that they're making. Economic points is what that stands for. And this is the Tholian player. So we can see that they've got 23 EP, which again, when you're at peace, you only make 50%, or you only net 50% of that income. That makes us, what is that? 11 and a half? Yeah, 11 and a half spendable money, which is still really good, all in all. So let's take a look what we've got here. Let's pull up their fleet cap and see what their numbers are like. So you can see that they have 3 ship equivalents. The freighters don't count as such. And they have a 6 attack, 32 defense total. All right. Let's pull away the ships and the bases just to see what we've got here. You can see a couple of resources scattered around, 2 colonies, three colonies, which is good because colonies can grow. All planets can grow, but certainly colonies can grow and we'll go over that actually in a moment, but colonies can grow quite at a ferocious pace. We've got the trifecta, which was part of their capital, the minor planet, the colony, and their main planet. And then, of course, all the stuff around it. 2 other colonies discovered and a number of resources. Bringing in the bases, you can see they've built 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th looking like it's on the verge of completion to be able to build out their supply. And based on what I'm seeing, it looks like they still have 2 supply. Interesting. Okay, let's bring back the ships, and you can see all the exploration freighters that are out and about. Again, looking at where everything is, you can see this convoy here is most likely, who knows, providing extended supply to this YFES, allowing it to go a little bit beyond the 2 hex, although this minor planet it's well within the supply range there. So maybe this convoy is just here to be able to build another base. Makes sense to me. Just to be able to further expand their ability to explore hexes. We've got 3 large exploration freighters, 1 small, and that's the way it looks. Let's look at the Tholian home fleet. We know they've only got 3 ships. What do they have? They have W-era destroyers, 3 of them. Okay, makes sense. No big deal. Now, I just noticed there 3. Let's look at fleet cap again to make sure those numbers jive. Yep, 3 2-attack war destroyers gives you 6 attacks, so that's where we're at. All right, that is the Tholians. Now I'm going to, as you know from joining us last week, there's only so many copies of these maps that I can open with Vassal. It must be some kind of hard limit. So I'm going to close these out and bring up the next one, and then as we get ready for talking about Splintered Will, we'll talk about those in a minute. Closing out the Tholians, what do we have here? We've got the ISC. Ooh. Let's pull up their EP. Oh, incidentally, before we go any further, what do you think about this different format? If you've watched us with the New Worlds campaign, you know that and I'll get to that a little bit later. We have a sort of me in the corner while I talk and the bigger map picture. But what do you think about a larger version of my face and the maplet to the side? Does it work for you? Is it better? You let me know. All right, so we've got the ISC here at 21 EP, just like the Tholians before. Similar footprint, we can say. If we pull away the ships and the bases, you can see, interesting, a number of, obviously, resources. We've got a couple colonies, the 3 original that started off their civilization. And then you've got a colony, a couple of resources, and over here, a Romulan? Is that a Romulan developing planet? Very, very interesting. All right, let's pull up the bases here. So with the bases, we've got, ooh, interesting. So you can see here that with these bases, this resource is in supply. Why do you know that? When a resource is in supply in this game, whereas in the previous game this wasn't necessarily the case, the player can access and pull from that resource. So you can see here it is most likely that this player has 3 supply because they're able to access and own that resource. If we pull in the ships, yep, that makes total sense. Look at that. There's no convoy or anything in between, excuse me, that would provide extended supply. So it looks as though they have 3 supply. And we can see here that makes sense because the other resource, and I'll pull away the ships real quick, the other resource, this is just outside 3 supply, is neutral. That's the white color with the blue dots. It is neutral, meaning it's not owned by the ISC. They can't own it and take from it because it's outside their supply range. So that's a cute, like a good little insight. We have 3 bases that they've built. Pulling up the ships, you can see they have, Destiny, Enforcement Fleet. Okay, so the named fleets, I love the ISC and their named echelons. Okay, so we have, let me pull that in so you can see a little bit better. So we have large exploration freighters in Destiny and Enforcement Fleet along with a escort frigate. Makes total sense. You can see here we have 2 smaller exploration freighters that are making their way around. And what's down here? Oh, a cruiser with a prime team embarked. Okay. Now, the reason why the ISC, whereas some other factions you'll see don't have large exploration freighters with prime teams, and the ISC does, is because once you're able to build a survey ship of some type, we'll call it a survey warship, something with an attack factor, basically. Once you can build those, you can't populate prime teams on freighters. Long story short, or the in-universe explanation is basically that they're they're pampered princesses, and the prime teams will not travel on such garbage scows as a exploration or survey freighter. They will only travel in luxury in those survey warships. So, fair enough. The ISC don't have one of those, so therefore they've got their prime teams on their large exploration freighters. So that's what this looks like. Sorry, just hearing some banging outside always makes me a little cautious. What do we got? We got YBS, a ground Y-era planetary ground base, and 3rd Legion with the Romulans. All right, let's pull up this minor faction. Boom. All right, I'm going to resize this so it's a little bit easier to see. So you can see that the Romulans in 3rd Legion have a W-era Kingbird, which is their command cruiser, a W-era Warbird. Notice there's really no difference, just 1 point in defense factor. And we have 2 W-era Snipes, which have a 1.5 attack and 2 defense. Snipes are their frigates. Okay, so that's what these guys have here. And let's pull away the ships for a sec and the bases. You will note that Castrum it's showing an eye, which means it's indifferent. So indifferent means that it's not friendly, it's not unfriendly, it's not hostile, and it's not happy. It's right in the middle. So they don't care one way or the other. I know that makes sense with indifferent, but it doesn't make they don't care one way or the other when it comes to the ISC. Why is that important? We'll get to that in just a moment. All right, so that's the Romulans. Let's pull up all those maps. That's the ISC at this point. So notice how the capital, 1, 2, 3, 4, is 4 hexes away from this Romulan planet. We'll talk about this right now. Trade. Trade is trade routes are a new feature that we are adding into this iteration of the game. In previous games, you could build a commercial convoy, which is much like a convoy, but it allows you, when you build it and send it to the trading partner, you would send it to them, and when it arrives, it would produce double the EP that it costs to build. So, for example, right now in the Y era, a commercial convoy costs 2.5 to build, and you would get 5 in return. Now, the thing about commercial convoys is that you would have to keep building them and sending them back and forth, and it was a very cost-intensive, labor-intensive exercise. So, in an effort to make the gameplay simpler, more streamlined, and just add another dynamic element to the game, we've established trade routes. I'll go into greater detail on that in a separate video, so be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow along if you want to see that video. But in short, once you establish a trade route between you and a non-player character or minor faction like these Romulans or another player, you establish a trade route which is noted on the map. We have an icon for it that you will see on the map, and you will have an established trade route that will give you a set amount of EP every turn and just adds to your income. You don't have to keep building convoys and sending them. You just do it once, and away you go. There are some constraints and restrictions around that, and they are vulnerable in certain ways. But if you want to find out about that, again, subscribe button, hit the notifications, and that video will be coming out shortly. All right, let's move on to the Hydrons. Ooh, look at these. Look at that reach. Oh, that's what happens when you get tugs early. All right, let's throw up the EP. You know, I have to admit, whenever I play a faction, I always get a certain soft spot for them. And no offense, from New Worlds, I was a little colored, biased. I had a chip on my shoulder when it came to the hydrants, probably because that hydrant player was really focused on trying to take me out. But now that I play the hydrants in Splintered Will, in New Horizons, I have a bit of a soft spot for them, and it's very interesting to see what they're able to do. So let's pull up their EP. So EP, you can see they've got 21 EP, no different than the two factions we've already seen. As we pull up their fleet cap, what do they have? So we can see that they've got 8 ship equivalents, 14 attack, 39 defense, which is interesting to note. In the ISC, for example, they had lower attack factor, similar defense factor. So what is it that the Hydrons are doing, or what composition of ships are they building that gives them a higher overall attack factor? If I expand this, which you can do in Vassal, I can see a little bit more of what's going on. So I can see there's a 3-5 ship, which on the surface makes me think that's a, looks like, I'm going to say that's a W-era command cruiser. Oh, look at that. There's a W-era command cruiser there. A 1-4, that looks like a survey ship of some type. 3-5, again, another W-era command cruiser. What else we got here? A 1-5, a 1-4. Those look like survey ships to me, and survey ships. And then, of course, whatever's in the Hydran home fleet, which looks like 2 ship equivalents at 4-4, maybe musketeers. Well, we shall see. All right, let's pull the ships back and the bases and see what we got. So quite the reach. Let's pull that up. Quite the reach. But you can see here a lot of void space or black space in between certain key things. So only 1 colony discovered versus some of the others that have more, but more resources, obviously, to get the same number of EP. Actually, let's pull up the Hydran capital. I didn't do these on the other 2. So notice how the Hydran capital has a indifferent, or I, attitude next to it. So it has the straight 10 that you get from your capital planet. Let's pull back the bases. Look at these bases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bases built. Ooh, what am I saying? 6. Math, Tony. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 bases built, and you can see they're building it at a ferocious pace. If we pull up the ships, I bet you got tugs. Yeah, we got a tug up north, convoy down south doing the building. And then you can see here we've got a lot of these WSRs. That's survey ships. So we talked about survey ships versus survey freighters. These are examples of those survey warships we were talking about. 1 attack, 4 defense, and they can move 3. So they can move 3 versus the 1 hex that the freighters can move, whether they're small or big. They can only move 1 hex at a time. They are slow-moving units, so a little different. All right, so 1, 2, 3 of those. And on top of that, he's got cruisers, these command cruisers, W-era command cruisers, with triad teams on board. Interesting that the triad teams are on the command cruisers, which makes them about the same as a survey ship for chances of discovery, as opposed to putting them on the survey ships to give them an even better chance of discovery. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It all averages out in the end, but interesting to note that difference. Okay. And just as this is something I like to keep track of, how far out is your bubble or reach? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the north. 1, 2, 3, 3 to the south. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the northwest. So as much as 5, as little as 3 with regards to that reach, but really, really good as far as making that footprint. And the Hydrants have a real advantage on this because of the tugs that they can build early. You will notice in this game versus Splintered Will, this game, those bubbles will expand much slower because of, 1, the limitation on the money that everybody has, but also in this game, you will find that the planets that are discovered, not colonies, but the planets, developing planets and above, when they're discovered, they have factions or non-player factions on them, making them, you can't just jump on them and get their supply. Whereas in Splintered Will, which you'll see in a moment, there is a bubble in which those planets are not occupied and they just seamlessly join your empire, expanding your supply. So that dynamic allows for faster expansion, whereas when you have to take the time to build the infrastructure like the Hydrants are doing, that slows you down in your ability to expand. So as I say, just a little different flavor here when it comes to New Horizons versus Splintered Will. All right, let's close that out, and we are up. Ooh. So this is the Federation in blue, big blue boys. Let's take a look at EP. Slide this over here. The Federation has a income of 26 EP, which is obviously above the norm from what we've seen so far, and they have encountered a Voodar planet. So we'll talk about that in a momento. Let's look at their fleet cap. You can see their fleet cap is, wow, 20 ship equivalents with a 41 attack, 70 defense. This is the most militaristic faction we've seen. Ironic that it's the Federation, but this is the most militaristic faction we've seen so far. Interesting. All right, let's pull away ships and bases just to take a look. So very compact. Look at that. They've found a lot of resources really close to their... Okay, so a couple things. So first of all, you can see that they've discovered a colony within, like, right next to their capital. All these resources are nice and tight, which is purely the chance of the dice. But Valence, this developing planet down here. Now, I don't recall in our previous map that we saw this as a minor faction. So I guess the question is, for the Federation player, maybe we'll find out in the chat, was this a minor faction? And if it was, did you diplomatically get them to join you, or did you conquer them? I'm inclined to think it was diplomatic, because if you look, the attitude on the planet is indifferent. If they had been conquered, it would be hostile, or H-. So that's what it makes me think. Or another option is that it was discovered as a colony and then grew. That's another option. So many things to think about. Okay, so let's take a look here. So let's bring the bases back. So you can see the bases, the build rate here is just 2 bases. YBS is built, and it looks like a 3 supply reach based on what we can see here. So 3 supply out beyond the fixed supply points of the bases and the planets, Valence being a supply point, which is important. And then, of course, we've got the Voodar here. Let's bring ships back, and we can see what we got here. Ooh, look at all these fleets. Okay, this will take a bit to open up. Okay, let's start with 7th Fleet. We'll go big and go small from there. So you can see that there's a couple... Whoop, that's too far. You can see a couple things here. One, again, this was mentioned in the last live stream. This is the Vulcan origin story for the Federation. You can see these Vulcan ships here. And we have a Vulcan survey ship. So they have... The fact they have a W-era survey ship is very advantageous, but of course they're expanding and growing quite a bit there. Okay, so that's 7th Fleet. Oh, they've also got 8th Fleet. Look at that, I missed 8th Fleet. Let's pull up 8th Fleet as well. So you can see 8th Fleet is the same as 7th Fleet, prime team with a survey ship. 7th, 8th, do we have a 6? There's a 6. Let's pull up 6. So we can see a type here. All these fleets have the same composition. Survey ship with a frigate and a prime team. This is mathematically the best option. And the reason why you escort it with something like a frigate is if and when there is an encounter with an enemy ship, you can withdraw before combat as a way to get away from a fight. That terminology in the rules of Federation Empire allow one ship or 50% of the ships to retreat or get out of the combat before combat even begins. There are some limitations around the opposing force and how big they are and so on and so forth. But long story short, when you've only got 2 ships like this, one can withdraw and one stays behind. This way, you can always sacrifice the frigate in order to save the survey ship. And the survey ships are expensive. They're like 8, 9, or 10, depending on the tech level. As far as the cost. So they're very expensive versus the frigates, which are dirt cheap, 2.5 maybe, to build. So from a cost perspective, it makes so much more sense to sacrifice the frigate, and then of course you can respond appropriately. Okay, so that's Sixth Fleet. Let's look up Fifth. I think we're going to see the same story as we go through here. Oh, interesting. So this is a Terran WSR, or like a more Federation WSR. Now this could be when, as far as their introduction dates. So there are different. The timing of when certain ships become available is spread across, quote unquote, the timeline. So you might start off with the Vulcan WVSR, but then later you get access to the WSR. The WSR in this case, you can see, is a slightly more offensive ship in the sense it has 2 attack versus the 1 of the Vulcan, but it has fewer defense factors with 4 versus 5. So 6 of one, half a dozen the other. I'd be interested to know if it's cheaper than the Vulcan ship. And that would be an interesting thing to note. All right, so let's look at the Fourth Fleet. Again, a WSR, as you can see here. Fourth is a WSR. Let's go to third. I have a feeling we're going to see a little bit more. Yep, a WSR once again. Let's just slide these a little bit over. Whoops. Let's do this to the very edge of the screen so that you can get the maximum viewing experience here. Manual processes, boy, they take a long time. Okay, so that's Third Fleet. Let's pull up Second. And this is why their ship equivalents are so high and their offensive firepower is so high, because each one of these WSRs is contributing some degree of attack factor, and of course they're being escorted by a frigate. So when it all adds up, there's quite a bit here when it comes to offensive firepower. So we've got up to Second Fleet here. Let's look at Home Fleet by comparison. And you can see here we've got a bunch of W light cruisers, 5 of them being built. Now, why would the Federation be doing this? Because for the Federation, other factions like the Romulans can upgrade everything. Everything is upgradable from W to M or even GW in some cases. So they have this constant upgrade path. Build it once, upgrade it in perpetuity. For the Federation, they don't have that option, except when it comes to the light cruiser hull. The light cruiser hull, the WCL here, can be upgraded in the Y era, and when the M era kicks in for the Federation, they can upgrade these to the M era CL, or the CLM. The CLM is a straight 5 ship, 5 attack, 5 defense, and it moves 6. It's the one of the first ships that the Federation can build in the M era, and again, fully upgradable. So you could have a fleet of like 10 of these things or more, and then all of a sudden you just upgrade them. Granted, there's a limitation on how many ships you can convert at one time, but you just go through a series of converting them, and you can just populate a whole bunch of M ships out of nowhere, and that can be a very effective tool to be able to upgrade or bring more offensive firepower in short notice. Now let's look at the Vudar here. We got Vudar Minor Faction. That's Juggernaut Fleet's Minor Empire. Boom. All right. So this is the Vudar. Wraith Fleet, which is the one that's sitting over this developing planet. You can see that they have a WCL, which is a 3-4 ship. Interesting to note, same attack and defense factors as the Federation WCL. They have a WDD and a WFF. Again, all these ships comparable to their Federation equivalents. Federation just have more of them, which means that could go a certain way if the Federation are so inclined. The Vudar have a base, a YBS, I should say, and a planetary ground base. So that's a little bit of an EW advantage and just more ability to soak up damage. Notice as well that the planet has an eye next to it, meaning they're indifferent. They're not hostile or friendly. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Feds do in response. One other thing I noted here, we've got a YVC, and I believe that is a Vulcan cruiser. However, this Vulcan cruiser has scout functions, which give it some special sensor abilities, which basically allow it to do a lot of the things that extended reaction allows you to do. If you want to learn more about extended reaction, we have a playlist of tutorial videos down below. You can check that out after the live stream. So that's the Federation, and certainly so far, the Federation are certainly the most interesting faction with regards to their strategy. I would say that they're currently limited mostly by supply. They don't have the infrastructure to expand at the rate that they want to expand, whereas the Hydrons are almost on the opposite end. They've invested a little bit more on the infrastructure, i.e. the bases, and they're not at their limit of how much they can explore relative to their supply. So, interesting to note. All right, let's go into the Carnivon. Wow. Again, so that's 3 factions so far that we've encountered. Another, and Orions too. Look at that. Okay, so let's do a quick little EP count here. We can see that they have 30 EP. Biggest economy so far, 30 EP, which means 15 bucks to spend, turn over turn, as far as net. So that's really good. Let's look at their fleet cap. Look at their fleet cap. What do we got here? Boom. The Carnivon have 22 attacks, 68 defense with 13 ship equivalents. So very comparable to what the Federation were at. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Very interesting. Let's pull away the ships and the bases. And look at this. They've just they've been very, I would say, a combination of very lucky and of course very effective at their exploration. Look at the density of resources here. The map in this game is what's the word that I'm of course forgetting right now? It is generative in the sense that as you explore these hexes, you roll on these tables and there is an opportunity or a chance to discover things, planets, resources, and other things. As you can see here, the Carnivon have been very fortunate in their rolls. A couple of interesting things. One, of course, the number of resources. But look at those wormholes. You've got the A, or alpha, which is a true wormhole, inside and out. It goes in, it's an innie and an outie, you might say. Whereas the Bravo has these, so they have triangles, right? So the alpha has diamonds, meaning if it was an arrow pointing, it's pointing out and in. The B, or Bravo, has triangles that are pointing in. So it's an innie, not an outie. So you can go through the B, and where you pop up will be interesting. The alpha, you can go in and out. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Carnivon end up doing with that, because you need to be able to explore and survey those wormholes before you can research the tech. And having that tech is a distinct advantage later on in the game, depending on where wormholes are placed. So wormhole transit technology is a very, we saw in New Worlds, is a very potent technology to have. And then, of course, they have discovered Petra, this Gorn planet over here. Let's pull up their bases. Now, so interesting. Okay, so we can assess or determine based on the resources that are in supply that they have 3 supply, or supply 3. Because you can see here, for example, the planet 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Even this resource up here, 1, 2, 3. So this base, I'm going to assume, is fully operational, because if it's fully operational, this will be in supply. If it's not fully operational, this would be blue, like we saw in the previous map, where you saw that I think was the ISC, where you had the one resource that was white with blue dots. So this base should be operational at this point, and that is providing supply to this resource, and it's been claimed. Now you can see we've got 2 bases providing extended supply, and the 1 planetary ground base. Excuse me, 3 bases. 3 bases built. And interesting that they're all, of course, within 2 hexes of a major supply node. The capital for the first 2, and this minor planet for this last one up here. And built in sort of a triangle formation. Very interesting. Interesting. Okay. Let's pull up ships. Whoa! Look at all that. Look at all that business. So we've got quite a few WCAs here, which is interesting. Their WCAs, interesting to note, are a 2 attack, 5 defense ship. They've got heel nippers, which are a fantastic little 1-point mauler type technology. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, only 3. Okay, so we got 3 large survey ships, 1 small one. And then all these ships, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, well, it's numbered, so that helps. There are 6 WCAs according to the numbering methodology here. We have a WCL, number 3. And then a bunch of stuff in home fleet. Let's take a look at their Carnivon home fleet. Carnivon, yeah. Woo! Look at this. So we got a couple of DDs and FFs, 2 of each, guarding the home, but a bunch of cruisers. So this is really interesting. Noting, of course, they've paired the the CAs with CLs. So, wow. The Carnivon are looking like they are going to be a potent force in this game. Very interesting to note. And look at 2 small exploration freighters. And, wow. Yeah. Well, the Carnivon are certainly running away with the game, so to speak. Let's take a look at what the Gorn that they've discovered have to say about it. You can see that they've got an indifferent letter next to their name, meaning they don't care one way or the other about the Carnivon. Let's see what they've got to defend themselves against this hostile force. All right. You can see Second Fleet of the Gorn has an improved cruiser of the W era, which is a 2.5, an improved destroyer, 1.5, 3, and a bunch of improved frigates, which are straight 2s. So it's fair to say that that will not stand up to the might of the Carnivon military. The question is, what will the Carnivon choose to do? Will they conquer, destroy, and eliminate the Gorn faction, or will they do something else more productive? Again, this goes back to the diplomacy thing, which we'll round out this section with at the very end, as far as courses of action that you can take and the impact that it can have. Very, very interesting. All right. Hey, look! It's the Borak, the boys in blue. I mean, not really blue because those are the feds, but we'll call these, this is my Batman faction in full effect stereo sound. Not the Michael Keaton Batman, black and yellow. That was the previous iteration of the Borak. This is more the Adam West blue and yellow version. So very campy, as the case may be. So what do we got here? Let's take a look at the EP. And it just as a reminder, I'm playing the Borak in this game. So you can see they have 21 EP, which is terrible, or I should say is more the lower end standard of what we've seen. Certainly the Carnivon at 30 and some of these other factions are killing it when it comes to EP relative to what we see here. What else we got? Let's look at fleet cap. Oh, goodness. So the Borak have no ship equivalents, meaning no warships. They have 14 defense factors, which is all their freighters doing their thing. Yeah, they've got no navy. That's looking rough. All right, well, let's take a look. Let's pull away these ships and the bases and see what we got here. So we can see that we've got a very small smattering. First of all, the footprint of exploration is very small. So that's one thing to note. The footprint of resources and things also very scattered. We've only got 3 resources discovered and 2 colonies in excess of the original 3 when we started off with. So not a lot of resource discovery, maybe sort of bad rolls, but certainly not a lot of opportunity because there hasn't been a lot of exploration. What is this guy doing? Seriously. All right, let's look at ships. We've got, you can see here, we've got the exploration freighters, and based on what we can see here, it would seem as though, let's pull the bases up. I should have done bases before ships, excuse me. So here we have bases. So we've got 2 bases built versus, what was it, 6 for the hydrants? Whew. Very much behind the trend. And then we pull up ships, and you can see here we've got 3 supply based on the reach of these bases and where these exploration freighters are. And we've got 3 large exploration freighters, no prime teams embarked, and we have 1 small exploration freighter that's discovered a Romulan planet. Also note that we've got a diplomat and a R&D team. I'll show you on the Borak, wherever the Borak menu is. There we are. Borak capital, we can see that the Borak homeworld is happy. Happy Plus gives you an increase in economy, and we'll talk about that at the end when we talk about the impacts of diplomats on the game. All right, so we've got an improved homeworld attitude. We're apparently working on the minor planet here. And then we've got this guy right here. Romulan. Okay, let's pull up the minor fleet for the Romulans. What do they got? Well, they are certainly not tiny relative to the Borak, that is. They have a W-era Kingbird, a W-era Warbird, a W-era Warhawk. This is a destroyer for the Romulans, and they have 4 frigates. So, militarily speaking, they dwarf the Borak in every way possible. Pretty significant. So, sucks that the Borak don't have a navy, huh? So that's what that looks like. But note this, and I'll pull away the ships and the bases. They are friendly to the Borak. Friendly. Now, why is that? Well, let me share with you a little piece of role play before we carry on. All right. So in this game, this is a war game after all, but in this game, we do role play encounters with each other, not only with the players, but also, of course, with the GM. Let me share with you a little bit of role play between me and this non-player faction. Okay, so there was communication with this new Romulan planet and the hex on my little maplet there. And so what was it that we said to each other? So this is sort of the description. The junior grade trade representative on the exploration freighter has the whiff of sycophant about him. Overeager and energetic, it is clear he sees this discovery as his opportunity for promotion off this freighter position. Well met, good neighbors. The Borak Incorporated Empire, BIE, trademark pending, welcomes the opportunity to meet and greet our galactic neighbors. The BIE is a commerce and technology-based collective of industry-focused organizations. We work together to expand trade, advance innovation, and build mutually beneficial relationships. Our chairman, the leader, is championing this initiative as we explore to make contact with civilizations such as yours. Would there be any interest if we sent a diplomatic envoy to establish formal relations? We would also be interested in sending a shipment of trade goods, hoping to establish formal trade between our planets. Would you be open to receiving such a convoy? This is truly a momentous occasion for the BIE. Plans are already being discussed for a commemorative coin. Perhaps Romulan artisans could be commissioned for the artwork. Signed, Matt Smith, Junior Trade Representative, Explorer S1. And in response, Julius Aurelius once said that strong trade makes for strong peace. While we are long isolated from the empire, ever is it in our hearts. And the words of our ancient emperor are true today as they were when they were first spoken. Our artisans are worthy and skilled. Every ship in our fleet has been adorned with the great bird of their family or unit crest. Our swords are sharp enough to cut a reed in water. Our coinage bears only the most noble visages, and metals are never debased. While this is not the long-awaited great unification of our beloved empire, we welcome the prospect that we are no longer a lone campfire holding back the wolves in the dark. I know not what rank this junior trade representative is, but if you are so authorized by your corporate masters, we would be open to a dialogue between our peoples and see if we are shield brothers. Let this mat come to our world and feast with the soldiers of the last outpost, the 4th Legio. Legate Drucilius, Outpost Commander, 4th Legio. Now, if I remember, I don't think it's the 4th Legio, I think it's the 9th, but there was a lost legion in Britain, I believe, at one point, and were they the 4th Legion, or I think it was the 9th? But regardless, there was a lost legion in Britain, and this is what makes me think of that. So, interesting. So in response, as Matt hits the forward button on his internal communication system, his excitement is clearly visible. This is it, he thought. Establishing the first interspecies trade route and introducing our first diplomatic contact. These are the accolades of an executive. Taking a deep breath, he remembered what his father told him before he left. Preparation and opportunity equals luck. You can't control the opportunity, but you can prepare. Put in the work, and you will go far. I'm proud of you, son. Remembering his father's hand on his shoulder calmed the young man, and the storm of excitement became a gentle breeze of motivation. With focus and determination, he began downloading all the policies and procedures on negotiation and diplomatic contact. He would make the most of this opportunity and not let his father down. Internal memo, Explorer S1, to the office of the CEO. Sir, we have established contact with Legate Dracilius of the 4th Legio. He has invited me to begin an initial dialogue. The Romulans seem keenly interested in establishing relations and no longer being alone in the galaxy. Their messages convey a keen pride in their artisans and creative work. I will forward all my notes and gathered information after this initial meeting. In accordance with our policy and standard procedure, I request the dispatch of a diplomatic team and a commercial convoy to establish trade between our planets. In addition, I recommend the commission of a Romulan artist for the commemorative coin previously briefed prior to my departure. The respect and acknowledgement shown to their culture will go a long way in advancing our trade goals. Matt Smith, Junior Trade Representative, Explorer S1. End message. All right, so what do you think about that? A little bit of role play back and forth just makes things a little bit more exciting, a little more flavor to the play as we explore sort of what's going on with regards to the Borak and their Romulan encounters. So we've got a couple more factions to go through here, 2 more, the Klingons and the Lyrans, and then we'll discuss diplomats specifically. All right, so let's close that out, and we'll jump into the chat as we go into the discussion of the diplomats. So here we go. How do you like those new transitions? I mean, to be fair, that last one is pretty much the same as the one before, but changed up the logo, make sure it was current, and you tell me what you think in the comments. All right, here are the Klingons. Let's take a look at the EP. Woo! Klingons are at 34.5, largest economy to date. Look at that. Such pride with those Klingons. Look at them go. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Klingons have 2 ship equivalents, 6 attack, 41 defense. Very un-Klingon of you, by the way. But nonetheless, they have some kind of fleet out there. Certainly better than the Borak. Let's take away the ships and the bases. Look at that reach. Very interesting to note. Look at this. This is their capital system, and they're really expanding out to the east, not so much the west or even the north or south, but really pushing east. Now, why would that be, per se? In this map, or in the big map, so all these maps that I'm showing you are all anonymous in the sense that all the hexes you're seeing here are not the true hexes for these factions. However, the real map that we get is one big map, and one of the features of that map is that we can see all the warp signatures or the locations of other people's capitals. We don't know who they are, we just know that they are there. Think of it like looking through a telescope to be able to see where your neighbors are. So, the map is a giant square or rectangle, and it would seem as though this player is not concerned about going to the west, maybe not so much to the north, but is really interested in going east. So where do you think, on a square map, they're located? Would they maybe be in the northwest, heading east? Maybe they're straight west, going east. Who knows? Nonetheless, it's interesting to note where they might be based on their exploration pattern. Something to think about. Little bits of intelligence we can glean from the maps we're looking at. All right, let's look at the bases. So you can see here we've got a number of bases, and of course, oh, look at that. There's 5 of them. That's good. So 5 good bases being built. Obviously, you got the income for it. That's fantastic. Really expanding or facilitating the expansion to the west. You can see 1, 2, 3. Look at this. This exploration to the southeast, illustrating the 3 supply that they most likely have. And based on all the reach that we can see here, it looks like 3 supply is the baseline. We'll pull up the exploration or the ships, and we see a lot of exploration freighters. 1, 2. Well, they're numbered. Look at that. I love it when they number them. So it looks like 7 exploration freighters, 2 small ones, and they're really pushing hard to the east. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all tight. Now, I believe this convoy is about to build another base based on the distribution so far, but very, very interesting. Look at Red Fleet down here. Let's take a look at Klingon Red Fleet. Duras, of course. Okay. So all these exploration freighters, notice that all the exploration freighters do not have a prime team, but he has a W-era survey ship, which is the D3E, with a prime team. We pointed this out in our last episode last week, but you can see here that they're really pushing to the east. So very interesting. I think certainly the Klingons are the largest economy in the game thus far, and they seem to be having a lot of success when it comes to their exploration and their footprint. I think it's a combination of good rolls in the sense of being able to explore hexes and, of course, finding something when you get there. I didn't note this before, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colonies discovered. Why is that so important? Because when the rules are made for growth, these guys can grow into developing planets. And even if they were to grow just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's an extra 5 EP as it goes from a colony of 1 to a developing planet of 2. That's potentially a 5. That's huge at this early stage of the game. Also, something to note, look at this minor planet is Happy Plus. Let's pull up, I'm pretty positive that the capital system will also have, look at that, Happy Plus for the capital. So they are making good use of their diplomats. Again, we'll talk about that in just a moment, to be able to improve the planetary attitude of their home system. Let's go to the Lyrans. Here we are, the Lyrans with a wormhole themselves. Very interesting to note. Let's pull up their EP. So 23, a little bit above the sort of bottom of the barrel, which is 21. And you can see here 23 EP. And yeah, looking good. Okay, let's look at fleet cap. Fleet cap. The Lyrans have 2 ship equivalents to attack, 16 defense. This looks like a survey ship fleet to me. You can see 2 WSRs right there with a prime team each, and of course they have 1 attack each, so that makes the 2. We've got 1, 2. Oh, that's interesting. Small exploration freighters doing the bulk of their exploring along with the WSRs. Very interesting change. 3 prime teams ready to go. I think it looks like they're going to be pairing those up with WSRs as they pump them out. Let's pull away the ships real quick, and you can see we've got 1 and 2 bases at, two supply intervals, and it looks like based on the hexes that are explored, we've got 3 supply, as was mentioned before. So we've got 3 supply, and interesting. So a total of 5 exploration ships. There's a very clear demonstrable advantage here. The factions with large exploration fleets like this, they over-index on investing in exploration. Their economies just grow that much faster. So very, very interesting to see here. Okay. All right, that is the last faction. So let's slide over to the chat and have a quick discussion about diplomacy. So before we go into diplomacy, let's check in with our viewers. Woo! Look at that. So we still got 15, which is fantastic. I noticed we bumped up to 16 at one point. Let's take a look at, look at all that chat. Let's pull that up and see what you've got going on since our last coffee. All right. Ooh, Bill, you're adding a lot there. Okay, so since our last coffee, Del George Paul Hay, Mayhem's laughing out loud. Lord Lawless, transition volume too loud or just jarring compared to Tony's. Oh, I can change that. Stand by. Let's see. The transitions are too loud. I will make a change to that. Down to... All right, let's just do a quick transition check. That is not what I was looking for. This is what I was looking for. Here we go. All right, give me some feedback. How did that sound for the transition check? You let me know. All right. That's an aggressive door, Daniel says. Yes, yes, yes. Hey, Mayhem and Lord Lawless. Lord Lawless would prefer half-size face with top half used for info, like EP chart, current power rankings, or picks, and current Empire ships, yet other vassal with their previous map. Wow, Lord Lawless, you are very detailed in your requirements. I don't know that I can facilitate that level of multi-screen detail based on the production I have in front of me, knowing that I do it all myself and I don't have a producer off screen that's doing that for me. But duly noted. I'll see what I can do about sort of mapping that out. But we'll see. We'll see. Might go squish it, Bill says. Need a few more cruisers and destroyers. Bill, remind me, which faction are you playing in Daniel's game? I think, are you the ISC? Yeah, you're the ISC, so you're going to go squish the Gorn, are you? Interesting that was your former faction. Valence was a Voodar world that was brought into the fold. Was it brought in violently or diplomatically? It seemed like it was diplomatically. Minor Voodar faction diplomatically joined, so the player said. So the player says. You can't be petty, Voodar. We are here to save you up to 50% on your ship insurance. Absolutely. Bill is talking about the Y-era tech. Maybe not only one, but built Vulcan survey cruisers. I thought we weren't doing Orions in this game. Not the way we did them before. Orions still exist as a feature in the sense of like a geographic feature that will pop up, but we are not employing Orions the way we did in New Worlds. That was very game-breaking. Let's see here. Tony is lower left corner. Okay, I guess I'm the lower left corner of the map. Orion pirates are still a menace in New Horizons. However, they are not a faction you can negotiate with. Arr. So they be ice pirates, says You Can't Be Petty. Shall not name the evil drivel. What? You Can't Be Petty. Thou shall not name that evil drivel. It ranks up there with Highlander 2, the movie that shall not be named. Technically, aren't all Romulan legions now lost? That is true. Daniel, and your Daniel, you and your facts, darn you. Always with the negative vibes, Daniel. Always with the negative vibes. Dell says, me ears be bleeding. Okay, so I dialed down that volume. Bill saying it's better. Gorns are best, no ears to bleed. That's very fair. That's very fair. Okay, so let's talk about diplomacy. And I'm going to pull up the table here to discuss in greater detail. Let me pull it up on my main screen here so we can discuss it as I go to the next screen. Here we go. All right, so this is the player information sheet for us as players in the game. This has a number of different tabs on the bottom. It talks about rule changes where we document rule changes. There's a tech tree here. The economics, as far as this is the tab we'll be discussing here today. There's a diplomacy thing here, which we'll also go into. Operations, which is some of the tables that are used to determine what happens here, there, and everywhere. And then some combat-related items that are on the list here with regards to raids and various other things. If all of that doesn't make any sense to you, not to worry. Let's focus on what matters today. We'll start with diplomacy, and we'll go from there. So on the top left here, and I'll zoom in so you can see it just a little bit better, you can see here minor planets and their attitude. So this is a table that's rolled to be able to determine whether a minor faction is friendly, hostile, or helpful to you, or indifferent, whatever the case may be. So you can see here that there is a 2d6 are rolled, and so between 2 and 12 are the options. There is a very low chance that they will be helpful right off the bat. 1 out of 12. So very poor chance. Hostile, also only 2 out of those rolls come up hostile. Mostly it's unfriendly or indifferent with 3 apiece, and friendly is 2. So when the Romulans popped up for the Borak, they popped up as friendly, which means I must have rolled a 10 or an 11 on that particular roll. That's great. And then, of course, you've got these other issues. Now, when you want to modify the attitude with them, you will have to deploy one of 2 potential special teams to do that. You can either deploy a prime team or a diplomatic team. The diplomatic team will be more effective, but both can do this to a certain degree. So you can see here on this table that there is description of what happens with these various roles or modifications to the various roles. So if you are successful by plus or minus 0, there is an attitude shift of 1 step to the positive. So you roll success, but it's not improved by any particular amount. If you are successful by over 5 points or 5 points and above, you get a attitude shift of 2 steps positively, unless you are in the hostile category, which will only go up 1. A diplomatic team gives you a +5 bonus to the rolls mentioned over here on the left. Or actually, no. Where is the... Is there another... Maybe Daniel can help me out here. I thought there was a table here specifically, or maybe it's on the GM one, that shows you the roll. Anyways, we'll talk about the modifications. We'll talk about the modifiers first, and then we'll query Daniel for a little info on the actual table when you're rolling it to be successful or otherwise. So, Daniel, if you could work on that in the background while I work on this. So, a diplomatic team will give you a +5 modifier to the roll. If you have static defenses, so not so much with a non-player faction, but if you were trying to improve the attitude on your planet, by example, then you are then you're getting a +1 for every 5 defense factors on your planet. So a Y era planetary ground base is a 1-2. So if you have 3 of those ground bases, it'll give you a +2, or sorry, a +1 for this modifier. If you have an orbital base, like a YBS or something in orbit, it gives you a +1. If you give or gift EP to another faction, or a non-player faction, it'll give you a +1 for that roll. For that roll, not in perpetuity, just for that roll. If you give them a gift of technology, it'll also give you a bonus. If they are initially helpful to you, as in like Happy Plus, it'll give you a +1 to that roll. And there'll be a -1 if they're unfriendly, -2 if they're hostile. If you devastated the planet and it's recovering, but still devastated, you get a -5 on that roll. If you are at peace, you get a +1. If you're at limited war, no modification. No modification if you're at war. If you're in exhaustion, and these are the different categories of like war fatigue that you get. So peace +1, limited war, no effect, war, no effect. When you hit the first stage of war exhaustion or war fatigue, which is exhaustion, again, a -1. The next level, it's -2. The next level, it's -5. And the last level, it's -10. And then there's additional factors here. I'll just swipe my head to the other side so we can read it. You can see here that for unrest, all planets with a -1 attitude level, as in unfriendly, no higher than indifferent, and a -2 to all levels, no higher than unfriendly. So basically, if you're in anarchy, every planet is unfriendly or hostile to you, and you've got to have ships there to maintain ownership, basically. So yeah, that's not good. Request. Attitude must be at least indifferent. So these are interesting things that you can do or engage with the non-player faction. So if you want some advice or recommendations or role play, they have to be at least indifferent to you. If you want them to help you in some way, like aid, lengthy over time, perhaps providing you military aid or other kinds of simple aid, you can do that, but they must be at least indifferent to you. If you want them to join your empire, you got to be at happy plus to make that happen. You can do a secret reveal, so some kind of intelligence sharing, shall we say. That can all happen, but you got to be at least indifferent. And there's other role-playing aspects that we can add in, hence the additional requests. Let's slide over here, and I will move my head once again. So when you contact a minor faction, there's a degree to which they trust or don't trust you, and this is the table that talks about that. Are they confident, trustworthy, reliable? And there's a reputation that you develop throughout the game. It's like it's the reputation you develop by your interactions. So, for example, in the last game, the New Worlds campaign, the Klingons were extremely warlike. So everyone was pretty much wary of the Klingons, or maybe skeptical, depending on where they were starting at. And then what degree of risk is there with regards to this minor faction? Again, ranked 1 to 5. And then there's different kinds of contact that you can have, but that's not something we'll get into today. So again, prime teams and diplomatic teams can provide some of these modifiers to these different factions. But not just your own planets and non-player factions, but you can send diplomats to and I want to go back to that table actually, because I wanted to go over the economics for you so you could see that too. So let's just quickly jump over there. And you can see here on the top left here, you've got the size of the planet. So resource, colony, developing planet, all the way to homeworld, and away we go. So you can see here the amount of EPs that are generated by those planets. And we talked about, for example, with the Klingons, they had, 5 different colonies. So this table here shows you the distance in the top. This is the distance from the homeworld. And then there is a chance, depending on what kind of planet it is, there's a chance for it to grow. So, for example, if you are a colony and you are 0 to 3 hexes away from your homeworld, and you roll 2d6, on a 2 to 6, you will grow to a developing planet. And then it goes from there. It gets worse as you get further away, with the worst for the colony being between over 13 hexes away. You have to roll a 2 in order to be able to successfully grow. And that's as much as you're going to go. You're going to get to developing planet, and that's it. Whereas 10 to 12, you can grow maximum to a developing planet, minor, and so on as you get closer. Now, this is the part I wanted to sort of show you and talk to you about, because the helpful, friendly, indifferent, unfriendly, and hostile piece has an impact on your income. So the last 2 here, or like the last 4 here, are what we really want to focus on. So this is minor planet, this is minor planet, medium planet, major planet, capital. So for both the minor and major planets, if you get them to happy plus or helpful, they will give you a +5 on your EP. So for example, most factions have a colony, a minor planet, and their major capital. And so if they get a happy plus on the minor planet, they'll get a 0.5 bonus on their EP. And inversely, if they're hostile to you, you get a negative 0.5 on that income. If you have a major planet and you get it to be happy, it'll give you a 1 bump on the EP, so +1. And if it's your capital, you get +2. So there is a distinct advantage in taking diplomats and working to improve planetary attitude on your capital to be able to get yourself to happy plus, because it's an extra free 2 EP. And then to go out and depending on the proximity of these planets and where they're all located, you can get these planets up to as high as +1 EP for majors. And then, of course, the lowest end of that scale is 0.5 for a minor. So between minor, medium, and major planets, you can get a pretty significant bump in income based on that. So that's that. All right, let's talk to Daniel about this this table. Let's restore the chat. Bring it back. Okay, here we go. So Daniel says, roll a d20. Success on a 15, modified as per the chart. So failure of 5 or more means relations get worse. Success means relations get better. Success by 5 or more means relations get much better, which is the two, the change of 2. So that's how that works. So thank you, Daniel, for sorting that out. As I'm talking to you here and now, I'm just going to pull up the maps for Splintered Will. It's going to take me a second to open all these, because Vassal is not the fastest of programs, and it takes a bit for it to do its thing. So while it's loading up, I'm going to, if you'll excuse me, the coffee is so stimulating. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. I'm going to take a quick musical interlude here just to be able to quickly hit the heads as we are live, and I'll be right back with our dive in to Splintered Will. See you in a sec. Space. The final frontier. These are your adventures as you explore, seeking out new life and civilizations, expanding your borders and exploiting the resources you find, befriending allies, or exterminating the foes that get in your way.
Contact detected entering sector. Configuration unknown. Assessing. Initiating countermeasures.
All right, we're back. Ooh, Daniel has more stuff. Cute girl from Panama? Currently, diplomacy rolls are made in secret. Would be interested to hear from players if this system works for them. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if that sort of like jives and whether that's the best way to go from a player experience perspective. Okay, so again, I'm just working on loading up these maps here, and it is taking a second because boy, Vassal is not the most. It would be great if Vassal was something that I could just open a ton of, and I could have all these things preloaded and ready to go. But unfortunately, because there's so many of your maps, I can only do so many of them. But once we get to the giant shared map, which will eventually happen, that will no longer be an issue. We will be looking at one map all at the same time, and there won't be this sort of lag with regards to opening up all the different maps for all the different players. Okay, so I've started that up, and I will slide over to this this map for now. Okay, here we go. All right, let's scroll this down. This is the Riemann map, and again, we are in Splintered Will at this point. You might recognize this format. This is the video, sort of the template for my headspace. For for when the map gets bigger, and we did this during New World. So you can see here on... Oh, ladies and gentlemen, a coffee has been fired. One away from our goal. Here we are. Ooh, who was it? It was fired by someone. That coffee is so sweet. It gets me going. It gets... Ooh, yeah. And you know what? I got to wash that down with a sweet sip from that crystal glass of sweet goodness. New Worlds. All right, you too can get your own merch. Just feel free to head over to stnewworlds.com and grab a glass. All right, let's take a look at this remit. I'm liking what I'm seeing here. Let's pull up the EP and see what we're dealing with. It is a little busy. Where's the Riemann? There we are. Okay, so the Riemanns have an income of 88. 88. Oh, you know what? Before I dive into this, I'm going to show you this table, which I had set up here before. Here we go. Okay, so this table here is the this is the current status of all the factions in Splintered Will. So you can see, there we are. You can see over there that we've got all the players, and then their races on the far right, or their factions on the far right. And you can see their EPs, number of exploration fleets, number of hexes explored. Robin, the GM, has gone to great lengths to be able to populate that. So thank you very much, Robin. You can see, we were just looking at the Riemanns a second ago. They're the bottom of the list there at 88 EP, which, amazing as that income is not the highest, with the Gorn at 92. That is nuts. However, note the size of their fleet, their attack and defense factors. They have already, in this early part of the game, over 100 attack and over 200 defense factors. There were factions in New Worlds that barely got above 200 attack factors in the entire game. So, you know, this is not insignificant. So interesting to note here, look at the range. So you've got 83.5, 82, 87. I'm going to stick with the 80s for now. 84.6, what a weird number. 88. So all these 80s, right? That seems like a very sort of statistically average number there. And then we have a couple of outliers, the 90 and the 92 on the top end. And on the low end, the Kzinti. Oh, we have hit our goal, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your copious support in keeping me caffeinated and lubricated in the voice as we carry on with this latest and greatest update. So yeah, the Kzinti, who was it that sent that, by the way? T is better. Obviously one of our folks from across the pond. T is better. Give me a break. To be fair, I started off with T. These core Canadians, they're just colonists, aren't they? Anyways, let's get into the Kzinti. The Kzinti are at 59 EP. So take a look at this. The Kzinti have a 77, as far as the number of hexes explored, they only have 77 hexes explored. So that seems like a very low number. Everyone else is over 100. Even the next lowest economy, the Hydrons at 66, not much higher than the 59. They have 102 hexes explored. So obviously, whoa, another coffee. Your generosity abounds. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, where are we at? That was the Gorn supremacy. Yeah, the Gorn, look at you, Gorn 92 with 157 hexes explored. So you're tied with the Federation, and the Riemanns are just one below you. For, oh my goodness, the Klingons have 159 hexes explored. So look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4 factions have over 150 hexes explored. That is twice the number of the Kzinti. They are twice as big as far as their footprint as the Kzinti. I wonder why that is. It'll be very interesting to look at the Kzinti map and see what they're doing. The Hydrons struggling You'd think I'd be doing better. The Hydrons are struggling with their 66 income and 102 hexes explored. They're basically 2/3 of the way along the way compared to everybody else. So very interesting. The Paravians there's going to be some inappropriate jokes about the Paravians here shortly. They're at 128 hexes explored, 84.6 on their income. Notice the number of exploration fleets as well. The Gorn with 15 of them. 15! Oh my goodness. There we are. Pekka Khan sends some albatross coffee. Yes, yes, yes. Well, we will have some plentiful plumage in the verbal way coming your way shortly here to be able to discuss about the foul fiend that is the Paravians and their pecking ways, shall we say. All right, so why is everyone getting so excited about this particular campaign? Well, it's because it's getting so big, so crazy. So let's slide over to the map. All right, so here we have the Remans. We were talking about the Remans before as being one of the larger incomes in the game. Not over 90, but really close. And you can see that they have, geez, let's just pull away the ships here. Look at this reach. So there's a couple things that really stand out to me. One, DMZ. So the Remans have encountered this DMZ. Now notice the orientation of the DMZ. I don't know what this map is going to look like when it's all said and done. But the DMZ is on the east side. We were talking about trying to suss out where everybody is on the map kind of thing. This DMZ is on the right or easterly side of their map. And so that's particularly interesting. I'm not sure what the DMZ represents yet in the game, other than it is a location for, on the other side of the DMZ, that is a location for what is most likely a Romulan faction. We'll see. Non-player faction, but we'll see how that evolves. You can see here there is a wormhole in the top of their map, and it's a two-way wormhole, not an innie, not an outie, but two-way, and it takes and it gives and receives, and that's really good because, like we mentioned before, with regards to New Horizons, wormhole tech is a distinct strategic advantage, having a fully sourced out and researched wormhole tech, and you can't start researching it until you discover one and survey it. So you need to take a survey ship up there, explore it, discover it, and then you unlock the tech to be able to start doing actual research on wormhole tech. And seeing the amount of income you have, Reitman player, I don't think that shall be a challenge for you. So let's take away the bases. Look at all these planets. You know what I was talking about before when I was talking about the planets and their reach? Look at all these planets. Knowing that the colonies do not provide supply, look at all these planets. If I pull up the supply menu for the Remans, and let's assume that they have supply 3, probably have 4 by now, but let's say 3. That is their reach. Look at that. That's not with the bases added. If I add the bases, it changes, right? So this is just the planets. The planets alone give you this reach. And this is a feature of Splintered Will in the sense that these planets do not have, oh, it's interesting. These planets do not have any military or like they're not non-player factions the way we saw with New Horizons. These are all sort of parts of your empire that were waiting to join you again. So they were very quickly and easily and seamlessly integrated back into your empire, and here you are. So we bring back the bases and look at their reach. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's interesting. There's only 4 bases built. 4 bases built, and with that, the reach that they have. Very, very interesting. Yeah. I'm also curious about these resources. So even though these blue resources are within supply, somebody else has these resources. Who is that? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, another coffee has been fired. Man, I'm going to have to go to the bathroom again. You guys are so supportive with the coffee. You know, coffee makes you go. Woo! I should get Red Bull in here. Woo! Wouldn't that be exciting? Mm, mm, mm. Coffee, away we go. All right. So, yeah, what is with these blue resources? I'm really curious to see what's going on with these blue resources and what comes of that as we go forward. So we bring up the ships. Oh my God, there's so much stuff. So interesting to note. Look at this 4th exploration fleet. It's out of supply. It's out of supply unless he has supply 4. If he has supply 4, that would be crazy. There's no way he's got supply 4 already. I'm just trying to think. I'd have to do the quick math on my own sheet to try and figure out what the fastest you can get supply 4 at. But I don't think you can get it yet. We're not at that point. If you were researching supply from day 1, I think you can get it by like year 90. But we're not even close to year 90 yet. This is turn 33 in the game, which is approximately mid 70s, or no, sorry, mid 80s, early 80s. So I don't think you can get supply 4 yet, but just mathematically, I don't think you can get it. But yeah, it'd be interesting. They are Tholian resources, Tony, the blue ones, Jim says. Oh, those are Tholian resources. Oh, which means, is he going to encounter Tholians? Interesting. Okay. Geostorm fired the coffee. Thank you, Geostorm. Okay, so this is very interesting. So are they supply 3 or supply 4? I would say, based on what I'm seeing, there is a possibility he's supply 4. But that just seems so unlikely. I'm confused. Unless, let's take a look into 6th Fleet. Riemann. Where are you, Riemann? Where are you? There you are. Riemann, 6th Fleet. You got a tug in there? Oh, it's an auxiliary fleet. Excuse me. Riemann auxiliary fleets. 6. Ah, there's a tug. That's what it is. Okay. So, let's put it over here. So, the 6th Fleet has a tug. So that tug is providing extended supply. That's how this ship is in supply. That's what's going on there. That totally makes sense. Granted, I bet you that ship's going to come back into supply, and this is going to build a base or something along those lines. That would probably be what I'm thinking he's going to do. But we shall see. 6th and 7th auxiliary fleets have tugs in them. The others have 3. So interesting here, just a little quirk of the game. So tugs have... there are a series of capabilities that tugs have. When you have, for example, these ships, these KE-1Ts, these are theater transports. And the Klingons specifically have a bonus to be able to get them earlier. And when you group 3 of them together, they can do almost everything that a tug can do. Not everything, but almost everything, one of which is building. And so I think he's going to use these to either provide supply, which is another thing they can do, or potentially build, I'm not sure, bases and things like that. So we'll be very interested to see how those are getting used. And you can see this has been an evolution. He started off with convoys that he built initially, assuming that the number represents when it was built, in the sense of the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, where the first one's built, when he could build convoys. Then when theater transports became available, he built those. And then when he was able to build tugs, he started building those. And so as you progress, more and more capabilities become available. So that's very, very interesting. Okay, so that is the Riemann player. Looks like they are encountering not only the Tholians, but whoever's on the other side of that DMZ, which I think is the Romulans. We shall see. So this is a very, very interesting map. Let's look at... Oh, foul indeed. Okay. So I have been requested to point this out. So all these names, you probably can't see it here on the map very well, but there are a number of names on this map. Boobies, and I can't see because this ship's in the way. Boobies Rest is the name of a colony. Boobies being, I believe, a reference to a kind of bird, and not something else. But there's a lot of double entendre going on with this particular player. Heaven knows why, but there is a lot of subvertive language being used in some of the descriptions for planets and ships and various things. Somewhere in here, maybe in Eagle Fleet, there is a giant dreadnought, which I believe is Khan's Pecker or something along those lines. Let's find it here, shall we? Where's the Paravian? Paravian! That's the one thing. I'm trying to find the... It would be great if these things were color-coded, wouldn't it? Okay, so we got Eagle Fleet. Eagle Fleet has... There we are. The KSS Woody, as in Woody Woodpecker. That's our DN. A dreadnought with 2 cruiser escorts and a frigate over in the far west of the map. You can see here. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's pull out the EP. And we know that they're 80 something here. Where's Paravian? Here we are. 84.6. 84.6 is the magic number of income for the Paravian player. We pull out their fleet cap, and we can see they have a total of 18 ship equivalents and total attack of 54, defense 124, fleet cap 124. So they have a number of ships, obviously 18 of them, and they have a lot of bigger ships, it would seem, hence the cruisers and the DN and various other things that are adding to that attack factor for the number of ships that they have. So, interesting. Let's take away the ships and the bases, and you can see, look at, it's a little, I find it's a little busy with the red and the yellow. It's hard to discern the difference, kind of like the Riemann map as well, just the color combination. And just makes it a little bit more difficult to see. But a couple of things to note. This major planet sort of on the edge of their space is really important. Note the happy plus. We were just talking about the effect of attitude on planets. This is a major planet, and it's a happy plus. If we go to their capital, I bet you they're, yep, happy plus there too. So that's fantastic. So you got happy plus in the capital, happy plus in that major planet, and you've got a minor planet, which would give you a 0.5, and this medium planet, which would also give you a 0.5. You can see plentiful eggs on the far east here. Also a happy plus, gives an extra 0.5. So there's an extra 2 from the capital, 1 from Skyhome, and 0.5 from plentiful eggs. So all those combined, you've got an extra 3.5 in their income that wouldn't otherwise be there. I'm curious as to this 0.6. I'm trying to figure out where that's from. Oh, the medium planet here, Pelicanar, there we are, is also a happy plus, which would give you a 0.5. Excuse me. Let's take a little sip out of my tasty beverage glass. Oh, yes, that's much better. So we've got Pelicanar with a happy plus, another 0.5, so it gives us 4 EP bonus. So you can see how this starts to add up, right? When you increase the planetary attitude, it really starts to add up. So it's huge. So we've got that. Let's put in the bases now. So few more bases built than last time we checked in. We've got one in the bottom here, where it's about to be completed in 82 spring. Another over here in the far east. And then we've got a couple sort of bridging out to the west. So 1, 2, 3. So we got a total of 6 bases built, one in the north, sort of cardinal points, and then this sort of connection here. So again, because of the advantage of how the planets were discovered and incorporated into everyone's empire, it provided the supply network that allows each player to build out very quickly, which we've seen. And then, of course, the bases sort of become like an afterthought, which is, I mean, we'll see what happens when they start encountering, like all these factions start encountering opposition, which hasn't happened yet. We haven't hit that point, but I'm very curious to see how each player faction, based on their rate of expansion and the infrastructure they have, when they start encountering opposition, what happens. So we'll see. All right. Let's get rid of close out the Paravians. And, that's the Riemanns. Let's close out the Riemanns. And here we have the Carnivon. All right. Let's Excuse me, I'm getting all congested here. More water required. Too much coffee. It's drying me out. All right. Let's zoom in. And we can see here we've got, we pull up the EP and the Carnivon. Where are you? There you are. 83.5. 83.5 is their EP. So they're on the lower end of that statistical range. And you can see their footprint is a little bit smaller than even the Praven that we saw. And of course, what I'm sure will be the Gorn with their 150 odd hexes explored. So if we pull back the ships, we didn't do fleet cap. Let's do fleet cap. You can see they have 6 ship equivalents with 15 attacks, 70 defense. So again, this probably goes back to what is most likely a survey ship focused fleet. We'll see. So you can see here, there's a much more robust base network that's being built here. So let's pull away the bases real quick. Again, the green and the yellow, a little bit busy to look at. But you can see here an interesting distribution of ships. Notice tennis ball, Happy Plus. That's what I'm talking about. Happy Plus over here with the major planet and the minor, which I can only assume. Let's pull up the Carnivon, home planet, Happy Plus. That's what I'm talking about. So we've got 4 planets here that are Happy Plus. That's 1, 2.5 plus 2. That's 4.5 extra EP in their coffers, which is huge. Especially sort of earlier on in the game. But as a percentage of their income, it's a significant increase. Let's pull up the bases, and you can see there's quite a robust base network being built out by the Carnivon here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 bases built. Wow, that's good. That's good relative to everything else we've seen so far. We haven't seen that kind of base building by any other faction to date. And I think the real reason is we see tugs. So we've got tugs, tug number 3, tug number 2, tug number 1. I'm assuming, let's look at the Carnivon exploration fleets here. The Ayu. So the exploration fleets, we have a YSR number 1 with a prime team, and all the rest are survey ships, and he's got a total of 9 of them exploring. So he's maxed out those specific fleet counters, and everything else is basically spending money on tugs. Interesting, the Carnivon strategy, build bases, not ships, and building that out. So very interesting to see. We've got a lot of prime teams at the homeworld. These were all probably previously allocated to those survey freighters, and then they all came home once they could start building survey warships, as we discussed earlier. Build a survey warship, prime teams are little princesses, and they don't want to ride on the freighters anymore, so they're in the survey ships only. Survey warships, I should say. So 3 tugs running around doing their business with a couple of convoys, it would seem. Also, 2 convoys doing their business, and all the exploration fleets doing what they can. It would seem as though we've got supply 3 here based on the current sort of reach from either the extended reach from convoys and or the reach from fixed supply points. So 3 supply, lots of bases being built, and a reasonable 9 exploration fleets doing their thing. I like what the Carnivon are doing, but very clearly when you just look at the numbers, they're not as initially as successful from a quantitative perspective as some of the other factions who are pushing exploration hard. So interesting to note. And it'll be, again, interesting to see which strategy comes out on top in the end. So that's the Carnivon. Let's roll into the alternate feds. Let's zoom in here. They're obviously their supply. Fed to supply. Boom. Okay. So, oh, wow. Okay, couple of key things. Let's do the basics first. EP. Federation 2 have 87 EP. Pretty good income, I have to say. So, they have 87 EP. Their fleet cap is, oh, wow, 44 ship equivalents. That's a lot. 92 attack, 175 defense. One of the stronger militaries we've seen so far. And then, of course, you can see there's some Romulan factions there as well. Okay. Oh, and I see lots of YDKs. Ooh, 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 ooh. Okay, so I'm excited about this. Okay, let's take away the bases and the ships real quick, and so we can see here a number of major planets. Look at that, 1, 2 outside of the initial trifecta here. Interesting. And of course, we've got a Tholian resource on the far right. Interesting that the Tholian resources on this map are red. In the other one, they were blue. And then, of course, you got the purple ones, which are the Romulans. Interesting. All right, let's pull up bases. This catches my eye. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3 YDKs built. That's interesting to me. So YDKs versus YBSs. So interesting spacing when it comes to those YDKs. This one's 2 hexes away from the capital. This one 3. I would have expected it to be in 1714 here, but I'm assuming it was built there for a particular reason. This one, there's the major planet there, so it makes sense that this is 2 hexes away from that. And interesting. Okay, so yeah, YDK is built. So what's important about a YDK? YDK versus a YBS. 2 things. Well, I guess 3 things. 1, the YDK is just bigger, badder, stronger. 8 attack, 16 defense versus the 4-8 of a YBS. It can repair 8 points of damage versus the 2 points of damage that a YBS can repair. It can also do conversions, which at this early stage of the game were 2-point conversions. And in this game, each YDK can build 1 frigate per turn, or 1 2-point ship per turn. Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, very, very interesting. All right, so those are the YDKs. That's the base distribution. Let's pull up the ships. So, so we have exploration and auxiliary. So let's pull up the Fed 2 Woo. Look at this. Auxiliary fleets. Wow. Okay, I'm going to put that there. So these auxiliary fleets, let's figure out where these are. The first auxiliary fleet, so they've got tugs, interesting to note. So they got 4 fleets with tugs. And then they have a number of escorts with 2 YFFs. So 4 frigates escorting the first and second auxiliary fleet, and then the 5th auxiliary fleet is all by itself. So let's see where these are. First auxiliary fleet is down south here. It's all by itself, not close to any bases. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, another coffee has been fired by the Tholian Empire. I'm going to take a quick sip of this. Oh, yeah. Keep that whistle wet. Keep it coming. All right. Well, thank you so much. We are 200% over our goal. Thank you very much, everybody, for your constant support. We have... This is just so interesting to me. So why the YTG? So it's a tug, has all the capabilities of a tug mission. It also is a cruiser hull, if memory serves, from the Feds, which means it has an 8 command. The 4 frigates that go with it, meaning it can command all those, it can bring all those ships into a battle line, 5 ships in that battle line. Each of those frigates is a 2-3. That's 8, 9 attack factor, and 6, 12, 16 defense factor. More than enough to pop and destroy this little Romulan YSN over here. Interesting. So that's the auxiliary fleets. He's got 1st, 2nd fleet. We'll have to check those out. And 5th and 4th. So these 2 YTGs are at the homeworld. I wonder if they're waiting for their frigates to populate the rest. The rest of them are exploration fleets. Let's pull up those Fed 2 exploration fleets. Here we are. Woo! Okay, so check this out. He's got a ton of survey ships, starting off with the WSR and then converting over to the YCS. Now, the YCS... Now, normally the WSR would have a little triangle on it to indicate that it's a survey ship. The YCS is a survey cruiser, Y cruiser survey. So he's got all these survey ships, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 survey ships with prime teams. So very effective at I wonder. So maybe this was a strategy whereby he expanded slowly at first until he got his WSRs and then just doubled down on the WSRs and just expanded from there. If that's the progression, then from a graph perspective, he just started off a little flat and then exponentially grew, which would explain why he's just a little bit behind some of the other factions, but ahead of, for example, the Hydrants and some other factions like that. So very interesting to see how that's evolving. Cool. Okay. And then, of course, you've got the Romulans down here. Let's take away the ships real quick. They've got ships go away and bases. So we've got a colony sitting right here, which is where that planetary ground base and the YSN are sitting. Interesting. Because I'll be very curious to see, what happens with the Romulans and the interaction with the Federation versus what happens with the Tholians. Interesting to note, look at this boundary. So the Tholian border is a hard neutral zone, but it's only 4 hexes. It doesn't extend further north or seemingly go further like northeast here. Is the border like, does it go into 2215? Is it like but it doesn't look like it does that down here. So what's going on? It's just like there's this little sliver of a neutral zone and what? See, this game is so interesting to me because it's being run in a way that's so different from our previous campaigns, and it's throwing me for a loop in the sense of I don't know how to interpret, if any, like how to interpret what I'm seeing. And that is so not inspiring. It is intriguing because I don't know. Like we are all exploring and discovering it together at the same time. That's the fun of this game. I love it. Okay, let's close out the Fed 2s and we'll roll into the Gorn. Oh yeah. Here we go. All right, here comes the Gorn. Ready? EP. Big Gorn number 1 at 92. 92 EP. Watch out, heavy hitter coming through. Babe Ruth of the income game is in the house. Maybe Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, depending on your vintage, but or Barry Bonds, as the case may be. Here we are. Bam. 92, knocking it out of the park. Okay, let's look at their fleet cap, and this is also going to be an intimidating number. Much like what we saw with the Feds, 46 ship equivalents, 69 attack, beautiful number, and 100. How did you do that? How did you get 69 and 169? Did you do the math to figure that out? Come on. Dirty. Okay, so 69 and 169 for the defense factors. Jeez. All right. So, and then look at this. Okay, let's take away the ships and the bases. And look at what we got. Very interesting distribution of planets. You can see there's a happy plus here on the major planet. Their minor grew to a medium, which is incredibly advantageous for them because that planet's going to grow fast, being that it's so close to the capital. The capital itself is, I'm going to bet, let's just look at Gorn. I bet you it's happy plus. Of course it is. And he's got a YDK at the capital. Very good to see. And then look at these 2 major planets in the north and the south, respectively. Those are, as the Paravian player would say, those are baubles. That's an inside joke for all of us on the Discord channel. For those of you who want to join us there, you can feel free to hit that link up below and join us at the coffee and Discord tier. You'll be able to join us over there, which we'll be at after the live stream today. Also interesting to note here, the DMZ. Look at this DMZ as discovered. So whereas we saw with the Feds, we had a neutral zone on the east side, and with some other factions, we saw DMZs in different locations around their map. Notice how the Gorn have it to the southwest. So if you were to figure that the Romulans are centrally located on the map, maybe not. That could be just total pipe dream on my end. But wherever the common reference point is, you can start to map out where everybody is relative to that based on what you can see here. So if the DMZ is in the southwest, maybe the Gorn are in the northeast of the map? Maybe? I don't know. And how close is that to anybody else? That's the problem with these little maplets, or the benefit of these little maplets. We don't know. We can't really determine how close everybody is to everybody else. And so let's pop in those bases. So here's what I believe is the Achilles heel of the Gorn, and at the same time, they've got a huge advantage. So you've got a number of bases: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay. So 6, 7. I missed one there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Jeez. Finding these guys. So there are 8 bases, but notice how they're all YBSs. Now, 8 bases is not terrible. That's good. And it's certainly not negatively impacting their supply reach, because if we look at the supply menu, let's set supply at 3. I think that's fair to say that everybody's at 3. If their supply menu is at 3 and we hit the Gorn supply, look at that reach. They have so much reach to all these Fog of War hexes. They're not going to run out of any hexes to explore. And then you pull up their exploration fleets, you can see that they're definitely pushing the edge of all these hexes that they can explore and find. So that there's no shortage of hexes for them to explore. They just need to keep building out their infrastructure to be able to facilitate their exploration and their economic growth. So really what we're seeing here, like in many of the other factions, is a focus on economic growth, and the infrastructure is only there to support the economic growth. So it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Let's take away that supply menu real quick, and we can see, wow, so we've got third fleet. All right, let's pull up this Gorn exploration fleet. What do we got here? We've got 9 exploration fleets, all of them survey ships. Wow, they got their survey ship early. So they got all survey ships with prime teams. That's huge. That's a huge advantage for them in their ability to explore. And then they've got expeditionary. Oh, that's what that is. Okay, let's look up Gorn. We've got exploration, joint task force, reserves, auxiliary, maybe? So we've got a couple auxiliary fleets here with tugs. So they got tugs. That's another big advantage. So there you can see 3rd auxiliary, 2nd auxiliary building that base. Where's another one? I'm sure you're around here somewhere. Oh, there's 1st auxiliary over there. Okay, so all these tugs facilitating base construction and, again, growing out that bubble. Yeah, I'm really curious about this exploration fleet, because I can see 15th, all these different exploration boxes. Named fleets, maybe? No. Huh. Where are we seeing these new exploration fleets? Tony, for the extra fleets exploration, you need to expand down the... Do I? Oh, I see what's going on there. So it's not officially part of the thing, but you're just adding them in there. Okay. Okay. Fair. A little, right. That's a little duct tape and bubble gum to make that work. Got it. So we still got a lot of these. Geez, look at all these. That's 15? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 15 survey ships. 10 of them with prime teams. And, of course, escorts. Wow. That is crazy. Like, that is just crazy. That's a fast exploration. That's impressive. That is very impressive. Okay. Wow. So let's look at some of these. You've got 3rd, obviously 1st. Let's take a look at these Gorn fleets. 1st Gorn fleet, nothing. Got it. Gorn fleet, 2nd Gorn fleet. We've got 2 YCLs and a CC. So this is just my my OCD trying to separate these guys so that I can tell what's what. So I got a command cruiser and 2 YCLs, and that's in 1st fleet. So where is 2nd fleet? So 2nd fleet's up here in the corner. And then we've got 3rd fleet kind of floating over here by a base, and Gorn 3rd fleet. Whoa, that's not small. CC, 1, 2, 3. Oh, so that's 10 frigates and a command cruiser. That is pretty good composition for early game and very cost effective. You've got, yeah. Well, so command cruisers can command 9 ships, including themselves. So you make a fleet of 10, and you got 1 plus the 9. That's 10 ships. That's an entire battle line in a fleet. That's very well done. Very well done. Okay. Huh. I'm, man, the Gorn player is executing very well. There's probably a little bit of luck involved, but strategically, all the survey ships that they have, of course, when they're available is really important too, but the survey ships with the prime teams, the composition of their fleets, like there's a lot of good stuff going on here with the Gorn. So, man, it's hard. Yeah, that's good job. Good job. Okay. Whew. Speaking of the opposite of that, let's look at the Hydrons. So I'm playing the Hydrons, the opposite of the Gorn, as far as the effectiveness of the execution. So this is the Hydron player, i.e. me, and let's take a look at what we got. So let's look at EP right off the top. Where are you? Hydron is at 66. So I couldn't even get to 69, huh? Jeez. 66, almost all, just a little bit over 2/3 of the economy of the Gorn. And fleet cap, let's take a look at fleet cap. 9 ship equivalents, 15 attack, 74 defense. So from a fleet cap perspective, not combat capable compared to some of these other factions, but certainly got some ships out and about. Interesting to note here, let's take away the ships and the bases. Look at the exploration pattern. Someone described it to me as a unicorn, which I thought was kind of funny. But if you kind of tilt your head a bit, you can see that the 2 prongs of exploration are like the hooves, the front hooves and legs, and the back with a little tail, and then the head up top. Yeah, I mean, it can kind of look like a My Little Pony or something like that, which was the term that was used. So that's kind of interesting. Excuse me. So that's kind of funny. But interesting exploration pattern here, right? Like we've got these branches of exploration that are occurring. If we pull up bases, you can see there's a sort of a strategy here when it comes to the supply. So let's count the bases out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 bases built. Crazy. And let's pull up wherever the Hydrons are on this one. Hydron capital. And you can see that they haven't upgraded the base. I haven't upgraded the base. Yeah, this is turn 26. No, sorry. This is turn 33. So the base at the homeworld hasn't been upgraded either. So again, from a weakness of the Hydrons, we don't have any YDKs yet. We do have obviously a very robust base network. Notice that the home circle, so to speak, is not the traditional hex. It's a little bit of an expanded or elongated hex. So you can see there's 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, 2 on the side, 2 on the side. And this creates this sort of ring around the cluster of 4 planets right at the core, which is the capital. There is a planet here, a minor planet. You've got a major planet there, which is Happy Plus, and then you've got this colony here. So assuming these guys all grow up together, they're all sort of within reaction range of this ring of bases around like that. And then, of course, we've got expansion in various different directions. Interesting, there's a couple of dead zones here as far as not finding anything. Bases under construction, you can see 2 bases almost complete, if not already complete. 2 things to note. One is, of course, this pulsar, which is it a pulsar or a black hole? I feel like it's a black hole. But nonetheless, it's a topography feature, geographic topography, that is an obstacle or barrier for exploration. Now, I've been told there's stuff that you can find around the edges of these things. We'll find out. But what's interesting to note is a Romulan resource. So I have a Romulan resource right there. And I have some intelligence that I've gathered through some role play as to where the freighters from this resource are heading. I will let you know what I find as I explore where they are. A couple things to note here when it comes to my exploration. So just like the Federation 2, there was a little bit of a slower start with the hydrants, and I mean, it is what it is. But if we look at the exploration fleets, you will note that all the exploration fleets, with the exception of that small one, are all large exploration freighters, no prime teams embarked. However, we have started producing, there are 3 current survey ships that are out and about. So we have 7 exploration fleets and 3 YDSRs. They are Y-era destroyer hull survey ships. So there's one up here, one right here, and one right here, all equipped with a prime team or triad team, as the case is, and they are the sort of the most effective exploration platform that I have. Also, you will note that there are a ton of tugs floating around. I've got a 4th tug sitting here, and there's 2, and there's a bunch of tugs. There's 3, there's 2. Where's number 1? It's around here somewhere. 1 up in the corner here. So we got 4 tugs floating around, and they're doing a lot of building and infrastructure improvements as we go. So interesting to note. This is the strategy that I'm employing as far as the hydrants with regards to focusing. Initially, the focus was just focus on building YFELs. The exploration would be slow, not too worried about it, and they were expendable. But now, especially observing the success of other factions and the focus on the survey ships with the prime teams, I have pivoted and adjusted my strategy appropriately, and I'm now focusing and doubling down on the survey ships along with the prime teams to be able to really leverage that expansion. Also interesting to note for the hydrants is if we look at Hydran Home Fleet, I'm building YCCs. Now, why do I build YCCs and not something else? Well, for the hydrants, their standard cruiser, called the Grenadier, is a 3 attack, 6 defense unit. It's not a terrible cruiser, but it's only 3 attack and 6 defense. The YCC is a quick upgrade. It's a 4 attack and a 6 defense. And I'll let you know, there's some other stuff I got going in the background that's going to make building those guys way more efficient. So you can pick up what I'm putting down there. But basically, I have built out the slipway infrastructure to be able to maximize the amount of those hulls that I can build. And yeah, I'm gonna have a command cruiser fleet essentially. We'll see how that goes, but I have to prepare myself for this potential Romulan influx. So I'll be very curious. Also noting what we talked about with the Gorn. The Gorn had that DMZ sort of in the bottom left of their map, and I have it to the left or the west. So I'd be curious if the Gorn are on top of me, maybe. If they are, that's bad news for the hydrants, assuming that it doesn't go well when we meet, assuming we meet. But I could be wrong. Maybe there are pockets of Romulans and Tholians, and that's what we're experiencing. Maybe they're totally disparate in the sense of where they're positioned. Maybe they're centrally located. Who knows? That's the thing about this game. We're figuring it out together, and there isn't necessarily a standard pattern that we're following. So very interesting to note. All right, let's close out the hydrants. Enough of those guys. We don't need to talk about the squids anymore. Let's get into the ISC. All right. Well, this is quite a starfish pattern, isn't it? Look at that. Wow. Okay, let's pull up the EP. Let's pop that out. Pull up the EP summary. The ISC are at 79 income, which is pretty good. A little bit above where I'm at for sure. A little bit below some of the 80 folks, but definitely doing well. Let's take a look at their fleet cap. You can see they have 31 ship equivalents with 84, 159. 84 attack, 159 defense. That is pretty good. And of course, the ISC have some really good wire ships as far as like heavy hitters. But let's take a look. Let's take away their bases and ships for a second. We just take a look at their pattern and distribution. You can see that central sort of constellation of resources and planets. And then, of course, you've got this major planet on the far fringe or edge, a common feature in many of the other factions. And then look at the tendrils that you have spreading out. Not dissimilar from what we just saw with the hydrants, except perhaps a little bit more expanded out, or more of them. So we've got tendrils expanding in the north, northwest, and northeast directions, and southwest. Very interesting, especially to the edge of supply. Let's pull up bases so we can see the base. Oh, look at that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 YBSs and 2 YDKs. The YDKs are particularly interesting because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they're built out at interesting distances from the homeworld. I'd be curious to know why that distance. 6 I can understand. That's a pretty good distance for movement and strategic movement. 8 is a interesting distance, and especially the spread between the YBS and the YDK. This YDK in the north is sort of on its own. It doesn't have a lot of support. Not that it necessarily needs it at this point, but interesting to note. And again, this is another example of infrastructure to facilitate exploration, because you'll note that if the supply is 3, the bases are being built at intervals of 3 supply. The YDK is 3 hexes away from this supply node. The YBS, same thing. This YBS as well. So we're looking at this pacing of 3 hexes, which is interesting to note. It's an interesting strategy. It maximizes the exploration infrastructure. We'll see how effective that is. Let's bring in the ships, and we can see, auxiliary and expedition or exploration. Let's take a look at ISC exploration. All right, so what do we have here? No survey ships, so we have all these survey freighters with prime teams and a frigate escort. This also, again, with the withdraw before combat, if memory serves, slow units like freighters cannot withdraw before combat. I may be wrong about that, but we need to double check that rule, because I would hate for the expectation to be that you can withdraw before combat, and then that can't happen because it's a slow-moving unit. Freighters and a number of other kind of units are slow-moving units. They only move 1 hex, at least at this early era, and then 2 later, but they only move 1 hex at a time. They are slow-moving, and it means that they may not be able to withdraw before combat. Just need to verify that with regards to, of course, pairing them up with a WFF. However, this is a best practice based on where they're at for their ability to explore and expand. Let's look at the auxiliary fleets. So interesting to note, no tugs for the ISC, a great, huge constraint. But because they can only, they do have tugs. They do. I can see tugs right there. Okay, so the auxiliary fleets seem to have a bunch of convoys paired with some escorts. However, the problem with the convoys is at this early era, you can only do 1 tug mission at a time with any convoy at any time. So like, for example, convoys can't do multiple tug missions concurrently. If you have 2 convoys and you want to do 2 different missions, that's a no-go. You can only do 1 tug mission at a time. So, for example, a convoy can build. If 1 convoy is building, no other convoy can build. And that's a constraint and a restriction that there is. That being said, having multiple convoys and having them positioned in different places is great. Tugs don't have that constraint, which is why tugs are so valuable, especially early in the game. You can see that we've got 2 tugs for the ISC, 1 down here by this YBS, and 1 over here building this YBS. So they've got a number of tugs up and running. Away they go. So the tugs are really going to accelerate that expansion and exploration. And you can see they're really maximizing that here at the edge of their 3 supply. Once this guy's operational, I'm assuming they'll sweep around and do that there. So excellent to see. All right. All right. I'm just getting an alert on the bitrate. We'll take a look at what that looks like. Looks like the internet weather is getting crazy. All right, let's look at the Klingons. Let's zoom in here. The Klingons are looking Interesting. Huh. Okay, so a couple things about the Klingon map, just even before we sort of dive in. Pulsar, or black hole, and a lot of Romulans. So let's take a quick look at their EP. Klingons are at 82 EP, so sort of in the meat of that statistical norm. Better than most, not the best, but definitely in the running. And of course, at peacetime, that delta or that difference makes less and less of a concern. There we are. And what else we got here? We've got their fleet cap. So Klingons have 40 ship equivalents with 86, 176. So 86 attack, 176 defense. Very nice. And look at this. I'd be curious to see what their relationship is with these Romulans because, okay, there's so much to go over so fast. Let's do it one bit at a time. So you can see the distribution of planets. Interesting, there's like a focus sort of in this direction with the planets and the concentration of supply nodes, i.e. the major planet up here in the corner. If we bring in the bases, you'll note a lack of YBSs being built. They've only got 5, 2 about to be completed. Sorry, 6 with 1 right there. It's just being hidden by that YPGB. Oh, there's bases down here that are being hidden, and a YDK down there. Oh, why is this? Let's put that there and then put that there. Yeah, there we go. Bases on top, my friends. Bases on top. Yeah, okay. There we go. That just makes it easier to see. So YBS, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 YBSs, 2 under construction about to be completed. That's 7 plus a YDK is 8. So that's really good, generally speaking, for what we've seen overall. And their supply reach is interesting. Let's bring in the ships, and you can see these auxiliary fleets and home fleet. Okay, so let's pull up the Klingon auxiliary fleets and see where they are at. Okay, these auxiliary fleets, let's put this over here. We've got a couple convoys in 1, 2, and 3. So we've got 1. I'm assuming this guy's building this base. There's no defensive units with it. The 5th auxiliary fleet is a tug with a destroyer escort, the F4. That's building a base there. The 7th auxiliary fleet is a tug with an escort, so they're preparing to build a base there, clearly. They're sort of drawing a line in the sand, it would seem. Interesting. And that's a colony. Okay, so there's a colony there. There's a colony there. Interesting. So colonies with resources. So there's 4 resources here with the colonies up for grabs, assuming the Klingons are going to go after the Romulans. Interesting to know. Where's the 8th auxiliary fleet with a planetary ground base and a tug is right here. So probably going to deploy that on the planet. They've got 3 YPGBs, a diplomatic ship, which is a unique unit for the Klingons, the D4N. And then home fleet. Let's take a look at Klingon home fleet. Klingon home fleet. There's nothing in Klingon home fleet. This can't be right. Klingon home fleet. Nothing in there. Okay, so there's a fleet counter there, but there are no ships in it. Maybe the D4N is supposed to be in there. I don't know. Okay. No ships in the fleet box, but there is a fleet box there. Okay, maybe the D4N is going there to establish diplomatic communications with the Romulans. Maybe they're going to share information. As we talked about, diplomats as a special unit, and that's a special ship with a diplomat attached, they have different capabilities. They have different options, things that they can do. And from a role-playing perspective, you can leverage that depending on the GM and how that role-play is going to branch out. And so you can leverage that to be able to come up with some kind of sort of interesting outcome of what's going on. So it'll be very interesting to see how this evolves going forward. Interesting. Note the lack of any neutral zone or disputed zone or any kind of border, just the fact they came across the Romulans. No border, just the Romulans. Interesting to note. And then, of course, you've got this topographical feature. I'll be curious to know if these black holes are equidistantly spaced, like we can use them as reference points to sort of map things out, or if they're just sort of randomly everywhere. Because it's interesting to note that the Klingons have it in the bottom right-hand corner of their map. The Hydrants have it in the bottom left-hand corner of their map. I wonder if there's a relationship there. Who knows? Yeah. And as was noted before, the Klingons also have these theater transport ships, which are being used to very good effect in New Horizons. But in this one, I don't see them being used in quite the same way. We've got them. You can see here. There's 3 E1Ts being used. Or sorry, the Remans were using them in that way. But the Klingons are using them here to be able to transport planetary ground bases and potentially maybe build something. We'll see. Klingon auxiliary. We did auxiliary fleets. And we did exploration fleets. Okay. So yeah, this is looking really, really interesting from that perspective. And the last faction we're going to talk about today is the Kzinti. So the Kzinti were the bottom of the barrel, if you remember, from the economic perspective, number of hexes explored and all that kind of stuff. They were having the most challenging time initially. So let's see if we can figure out why that is. Let's maximize that. Let's go to EP. So the Kzinti, where's the... There it is, 59. So 59 EP is the lowest in the range. It is just a little bit, well, it's just about 2/3 of what the Gorn have at 92. So from an economic range, they're sort of the weakest right now. But that is by no means an indicator of overall success, as the Gorn player, Smitty, from our previous campaign in New Worlds, demonstrated to great effect. Let's take a look at bases, let's look at fleet cap real quick. So they have 21 ship equivalents at 42 attack, 106 defense. So they've certainly got a fleet that is going to help them and build them out. So let's see what we got here. We've got good concentration of planets. Look at that. A couple of really good major planets. Good concentration of minors. 1, 2, 3. Medium, 2 mediums. Another minor planet. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this is 1, 2, 3. This is a good... I mean, the core distribution of planets is very equal for a lot of players, but this is looking really good to get the Kzinti up to that sort of that level, at least to where the Hydrants are, by example. And that, to be fair, as the Hydrants, that's not a high bar, but it is what it is. So let's take a look at their bases. So you can see there's a lot of base building going on here, relatively speaking. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bases in this compact space, which is good in the sense of like it's well distributed. You can see that the initial construction of bases is resembling something like a 2-hex distribution, but it's not quite uniform. It's an interesting pattern. I'm not sure what the motivation or inspiration is. Maybe it's just driven by exploration, which is perfectly legit. We've seen that with other factions. Let's pull up the ships, and we can see a bunch of prime teams. Actually, let's pull up their exploration fleets. Kzinti. So we can see the Kzinti have 5 large exploration freighters doing surveying, and then a small one. And then they've started building some W and YSRs. So building and doubling down on those YSRs, especially as has been proven by the Gorn and some other factions, that is the way to go. Double down on those survey ships, pair them with a prime team, and just focus on that exploration. You can also see they've got tugs. You've got W-era tugs, 1, 2, 3 of them at least, and they are building, and they got a ton of prime teams there. They got the ability to really pump out a lot of bases and really stretch out that supply network, which is going to be really critical for them going forward. And let's see. Do they have a home fleet? Yes, they do. So let's take a look at the Kzinti home fleet. Ooh, someone was building some ships. All right, so we've got 3, 3, 3. That's 11 frigates, 2 strike cruisers, and a commando cruiser. So this is not a small fleet in the sense of at this size, at this point in the game. This is a significant military force. I would say that the Kzinti, just generally speaking, when we look at some of the bigger factions, like even against the Gorn had large fleet, but a lot of little ships. This is more than enough to defend yourself. And I would say that the focal point or the focus, as it is for the Hydrants, needs to be on, in order to stay sort of trend line, to try and catch up and be competitive with some of the other factions, really push on the exploration. So I'm not sure, with the economy the way it is, they probably have enough to be able to build, especially they've got a whole bunch of these prime teams banked on their homeworld, the 4 of them. So over the next 8 turns, every second turn when you can build them 1 per year, build those survey ships and just pump them out. I'm sure the Kzinti players already knows this and is going to do that. And then from a base building perspective, I would recommend building bases to facilitate exploration. However, think about how they can mutually defend each other with extended reaction. So think about that, the 2 hex bubble for extended reaction when you're building these bases and the spacing of them and everything. Think about that as you're building that out. But at the end of the day, you got to build the reach and the ability to explore and expand those borders as quickly and competently as possible. So that's looking pretty darn good. Let's slide into the chat and see how we're doing. All right, let's pop out this chat and let's have a look, because you guys have been plowing away with the chit chat while I've been going away. All right, so back to the last coffee, which was fired from the Tholian Empire. Actually, there's a little bit more in there. Okay, so let's Jim, you are prolific, my friend. Read the name on planet 1711, Tony. Woody. Yeah, Woody. Pelicanar, home of the Pelicans. Pelicanar. War. That's what happens, especially Tholians. Yes, especially slow initial exploration in compared to WSRs. Turn 29, planetary growth. So in turn 29, everyone had planetary growth. And so I expect that, 59, maybe 58? We'll see planetary growth again for everybody next time around. The Riemann player had a problem with the Tholian resource being red as well as its own. So, so they just changed the color so it was visually distinct. So there wasn't any confusion there, which totally makes sense. But normally the Tholians are red and white. That's normally the counter for Tholians. Let's see. Tony, go below the exploration fleet boxes. Yes, thank you. 69, dude. Totally. I lost 2 YFFs in turn 31. You can't be petty, says. So, can't be petty. Remind us, are you the Gorn? I believe you are the Gorn. So you lost 2 frigates in turn 31. Where did they go? How did you lose them? Such a magpie. 10, 11, and 8, 12 by Tholian patrols. Ooh, so the Gorn is encountering Tholian patrols. Isn't that interesting? So things are expanding outwards. I mean, obviously players are expanding outwards, but there's a lot of sort of encountering with the big baddie in the game, which is the Tholians. Very interesting to see how that's going. Death to the Tholian oppressors, common Paravian colloquialism for punishing one's enemies. Tony, for the extra fleets exploration, you need to expand down. Yeah, okay, did that. Read the text. It's only me. Show 9 of 15. Okay, okay. Petty said above what happened. The Tholians attacked. MLP map. I'm not sure what that means. Ponies, yes. Little cute fluffy ones. Talking about my pony looking map. Yes, of course. You'll need those YCCs for the Tholian Menace. Absolutely. When you get ×2 strat moves, the 8 distance YDK will be able to take new builds. So true. So Y airships move 4 hexes. And so strat move comes at the end of operational movement when it comes to the phases of play. You can move up to a certain amount of your operational movement. So there is a tech I'm sure everyone is really, really close to it if they haven't already got it, where you get to move 2 times your operational movement, i.e. 8 hexes. So Eugene says, Klingon fleet box misnamed by the GM. DC4, F4, and 4E2s so far. So, okay, so whatever that fleet box is, or whichever fleet box it's supposed to be, they've got a cruiser, a destroyer, and 4 frigates, or escort ships, in that hex. So it would seem as though the Klingons are getting ready for a fight. Is that true, Eugene? Are you looking to draw some Romulan blood? Spill the copper, you might say? I'd be very interested to know. Next planetary growth turn. Down with the Tholians. Bill Linton is in the house. My Little Pony MLP. Got it. Awk. All right. Well, let's restore the chat there. So, yeah, that was quite the summary. That is 2.5 hours of going over this stuff. So a couple quick questions for you as the audience. 1, did you like the new transitions? Were they worth it? Just did a little bit of work on that to try and sort of update the stream. 2, this has been 2.5 hours long, and we've covered 2 different campaigns. This is too long for a normal stream. So I'm thinking of either dividing it into 2 different shows or 3 different shows once Imperial Stars gets to the point where we can start sharing those maps too. So 3 different shows for the 3 different campaigns, potentially. Alternating every sort of week to discuss the different what's happening in each show. Or taking a long format like this and then cutting it up into snippets with clear divisions. Like, for example, when I took the bathroom break, that would be a clear line where we would divide it into splintered. Well, and then we just had 2 different shows, and I can show you clips and various other things. A little more labor intensive when it comes to like doing all that editing, but all in all, we can do that. So you'll have to let me know what works best for you. If you've made it to 2.5 hours into this live stream, you're obviously invested. So please, a couple things. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, because right now we've got 15 viewers and only 11 likes. So thumbs up, please and thank you. It just tickles the YouTube algorithm in the right way, so it like helps share the video. And what do you want? Do you want to see more of those cut clips and sort of highlights? We can do that absolutely. If that's more your style. And lastly, well, two things. 1, next week, for all of those who are in the Discord chat, you know that I'm going to be away for the next 2 weekends. So this coming weekend, this is Saturday. A week from now, I will not be live streaming. I will be unable to due to my traveling. And the following weekend after that, I will also be unable. So on the 30th of September and the following, I believe it's the 7th, or is it the 8th? Let's see here. On the 30th of September and the 7th of October, I will not be doing a live stream. However, I will endeavor to create some pre-recorded programming that will be available to you over those 2 weeks to tide you over between now and then. So there will be a slight interlude as I disappear for a wedding in the family, and family first. So got to deal with that. And then when I come back, we'll jump back on the regular content train and give you what you so desperately deserve. This. Today, I just want to thank you very, very much. We've gone 200% of our goal today. We had 4, we hit 8 different contributions for the goal. So thank you so much for your coffee contributions. Very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much. It goes to help like pay for those little transitions and things like that, and all the costs that go along with, you know, creating this live stream. And of course, creating the best game experience for you, the players, and for you, the viewers. Any and all feedback you have, for example, thank you so much for letting me know about the audio on that new transition. I've made the change. Hopefully that is the right volume for you. And and we'll see how that goes going forward. Yeah, if you have any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to reach out in the comments. And if you are part of our Discord community, and if you're not already and you want to be, again, QR code, hit the link over there, Discord and Coffee tier, and you can join us over at the Discord channel. You can also be the first up to start playing these new games when they come out. Granted, we just started 3 new campaigns. We might be a little bit until the next campaign get going, but we have at this point 4 different campaigns running at the same time, 3 of which are being highlighted, or 2 today, but 3 are being highlighted in the new the Event Horizons family of campaigns, and we'll be talking about those in the live stream as we go forward. All right. So thank you so much, for everybody, for all your help, all your support. And if there's anything I can do, let me know what merch you would like to see other than these delicious, wonderful, inspiring glasses. If you would prefer seeing a hoodie or a hat or whatever the case may be, you let me know in the comments in the chat or in the Discord when you get there. I will be looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much, everybody. I will see you in 2 weeks. Ciao for now.